This is the Vision 79 podcast where my friend Sander and myself, Mason, discuss recent developments in our business and personal growth. The name Vision 79 comes from our respective racing numbers, Sander's being 40 and mine 39, and we have a shared vision for success in business and personal life. Many successful people have started small, just like us, but very few of them have documented their process. We intend to be the first to document our journey from start to finish. And I like to start each podcast with like a brief recap of the previous week's worth of work that we've done. We film these weekly, so that when we look back, we can kind of see where in the process we were. And this past week has been pretty productive, I think. We've done a lot of branding and social media marketing work, which is awesome. I think branding is something that's super difficult, and it's important that you take your time with it to make it perfect, because that's the first and only recurring facade that customers interface with your business for the whole life of it. And if you have off branding, you know, if you, the first time you see it, if it's off, you'll lose that customer. They're less likely to return, right? You want something that people are comfortable wearing on a t-shirt day in, day out. And we made a milestone decision on production and suppliers. We made a commitment, which I think we made the right choice. Yeah, I think going the other way would it would be nice in the long run, but it would overcomplicate things and delay the start of this business, and we really need it to kick off. Yeah. So I'm happy with the direction that we went for that.
I would agree.
What else do you think we did this week?
We struggled with the podcast posting from last week, so
we did. Sander does all of the podcast stuff. I merely show up. That's it. So you struggled with the podcast
I struggled with it.
Yeah. Thank you for struggling with it, so that I don't have
we eventually got it posted. So sorry about the delay, but it is out. Podcast 11. This one will be released normal time and schedule. And then I also revised up some of my resume stuff and looked at, that was probably a good portion of my week was looking at other opportunities around here and various connections that Mason has. And then additionally, I had a customer card that I was working on, which took up some of my week this week, but it will help me in the future to have that little bit of extra money for our business plans. So, you know, not really directly business work, but assisting in the cause nonetheless, I guess.
That's looking at your resume is a perfect segue into my first point today, which is that you were almost fired last week for posting TikToks online from your office. And I was almost fired this week for showing up late and then doing a no-call, no-show one day, which is ironic because the previous week, I think I mentioned it in the last podcast, I was like, my boss pulled me aside and was like, you have to come in earlier. You can't come in at like 11 or noon. I was like, okay. And so that Monday, my alarm didn't go off. So I woke up at like noon because I'm up till fucking 4 working. So I wake up at like noon and I was like, I bet it looks worse to come in really late than to not come in at all. So I'll just take the day off, right? And it turns out our power went out. Someone was stuck in the elevator. So I went to the front office. We had to call the fire department. It was a whole thing. So by the time I finished, it was like 3. And I was like, it's definitely not worth going into the office for this. So I'll just not, right? But it wound up being the case that was the first day of a kickoff of like a series of important meetings. And we have the meetings every day. So I was like, it's no big deal if I miss one. It's not that big a deal. The next day, my boss pulled me aside and he was like, you fucked us on this. Because it's really difficult to find like tasking between contracts. And I managed to find one. And like, you're one of the only people on our team who other people want to work with for some godforsaken fucking reason that even I don't understand. And they're the only people that want you. And it looks really fucking bad on all of us if you don't show up to the first meeting. And I was like, oh shit. Like I didn't realize the repercussions of that because I thought no call, no showing would be better than showing up late because that's what we had talked about the previous week.
Right.
And so after that, I felt really bad. Not because I came in late or didn't come in. I don't care about that. I'll no call, no show all day. It doesn't fucking matter, right? The problem is I know where my team is at right now, and it's a shitty spot. And this is like one area where they can actually improve. And in fairness, a lot of my projects, I think honestly, when I reflect on it, the only projects that my team is completing that could like provide critical value to the company and save dollars, like discernible, quantifiable dollars, are projects that I'm running. And I think that's one of the reasons that people want to work with me. So based on the fact that it makes my boss and my team look bad, I've started to come in like actually on time, actually early, because I don't want their reputations to suffer from my bullshittery. So I've started to go in on time, not for myself, but for others.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am. I had this past week off, and I'm not.
That's a way to phrase it.
Yeah, I had this past week off.
You were forced to take this last week off.
I was. Yeah, I had a beautiful week of unpaid leave, and I go back on Tuesday, and I am not really that excited about it, to be honest.
The bummer is they're gonna watch you like a hawk now. Like they're gonna be.
That's why I spent this week applying, because I just don't want to be in that environment. Yeah. And if I can't telework and I feel like I'm being watched all the time and I feel like I got eyes over my shoulders, like I just don't want to work in that environment in general.
Yep.
You know, not even given this stuff. Like I just wouldn't want to be there at all.
I'm crossing my fingers and my toes that our investment income hits, like our investor funding hits, like in the next 2 weeks, because I know that all the work that we have left to do on this project, if we quit and commit to that full time, we can get all of that done so quickly. Yeah. But while we're waiting on it, it's just like we can do all the work and have everything ready, but like the ball isn't rolling. Like the income from business is not on its way yet.
Yeah, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, we are.
I'm hoping that I can find a temporary position that, you know, pays equivalently, that isn't going to be so strenuous mentally. There was a lot of positions open that seemed to be hybrid or even remote, and I don't know how accurate LinkedIn is when it comes to that stuff.
Is your position strenuous mentally, or do you just mean like you don't want to be fucking analyzed all day?
I just don't want to be analyzed all day, and it's really tough for me, like, to be in the office space now all day, every day, and having, you know, my commute is 2 hours total. So it's not just that I waste 8 hours there; it's that I waste, you know, 2 hours driving.
Right.
And so it's like a 10-hour chunk completely taken out of my day. And then when I get there, it's so slow and boring that I don't feel mentally engaged. So then I go to work on other stuff and I have to completely shift gears. And I'd rather be in an environment where at least there's like some stuff coming to me, or, you know, the office environment isn't depressing, so that when I go to work on my personal stuff after work, I feel like it's just a transition from one task to the other rather than a complete mindset. And it sucks too. My laptop screen broke on my laptop, so I have to use the monitors. And so it's like out for the world to see. You know what I mean? So it's like, even if I want to take like a 15-minute break to look at something, or, you know, look something up, or, you know, do my own thing, it's like we don't have cubicles, traditional cubicles. It's just like a big room. And so it's like on broadcast for the world. So I have to, you know, I can't do that anymore. And it's equally bad to be on your phone. So you got to take bathroom breaks regularly and, you know, keep your sanity. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to it.
That's a bummer. I'm hoping that you don't even have enough time to apply for a new job before this funding hits and we can quit.
I would hope that too.
But yeah, until then, I've kind of committed at this point. I've started to think to myself, like, man, I'm not trying that hard at work. Honestly, I don't try that hard, but I'm getting positive feedback from the people I work with anyways. I mean, not my boss, because I was coming in late, but like now, like this past week that I came in on time, he was like, fuck you, everything you're doing is fantastic. Why don't you do this all the time? And I have thought to myself, I wonder if in the tail end, I actually like push on the gas a little bit and see what I can actually do. Like see what the fuck I'm actually capable of as a W-2 employee to save a real big company money before I quit and leave. So like if I put in my 2 weeks and then I actually do 9-hour days for that final 2 weeks and like actually try, I wonder what can happen.
Yeah.
Not happening, like not trying and not happening. My projects have gone up the chain of command to directors and gotten their approval.
Yeah, at my job, it's like there's not really much space to move up. You know, I work with people who are in the exact same technical position I am, who have been there for 5-7 years.
Fuck that.
And they're doing the same thing. And then there's someone who was in the same technical position that I'm in for almost 40 years, and he just got a manager position. You know, and the only real way
40 years and he just got a manager position?
Yeah, he was basically a, you know, 1, 2, or 3 level mechanical engineer just in a standard office space like I was, working on the same stuff I was.
Dude, I would
similar pay. Yeah.
2 years in, I would end it. of the same shit every day.
Yeah.
There's this guy on TikTok who we watch this stuff every once in a while. It's like, here's the life of a daily regular W2 employee.
Oh, yeah.
And it starts by him fucking rubbing one out in bed before his alarm goes off, and then like making eggs, and then going to work and coming home on his lunch break and going back to work and coming home and walking his dog, and then watching Netflix from like 6:30 p.m. until he goes to bed at 11. And like, that's fucking so much time that you're just lighting on fire, that you're burning.
Yeah.
Right? It's infuriating. And speaking of infuriating, my first couple things to talk about are just me fucking bitching because I'm pissed at a lot of shit this week. The first one is that I saw an Alex Hormozi TikTok, and I agree with a lot of Hormozi stuff, not everything, right? And this TikTok he was talking about how he's talking to a world champion in whatever sport right now, I don't know. And he was like, hey, once you win this championship, you should quit. Like, quit while you're at the top. Quit because you don't learn any lessons from losing, because you lose a lot on your way to the top. Once you've learned those lessons, you're done. Quit while you're at your top so that when you leave, everyone still thinks to themselves, like, oh, I wonder what he was actually capable of. Like, if he had stayed in it, maybe he still got it, maybe he doesn't, but like, you left at your peak. It's like Nico Rosberg, right? And that lit my blood on fire because Hormozi preaches leaving nothing in the tank.
Yeah.
All he talks about is go until you can't anymore. Go and go and go. You can rest when you're dead. So why the fuck would you quit when you're at your peak? That's leaving something on the table. Because let's say I win my 4th Formula One championship in a row, right? And then I quit. Like if Max wins this year and then leaves, right? Everyone, like, he's still at the top of his game. But what if you had a 5th one left in you? You don't know because you left, right? Yeah. What if you didn't? What if you have 4 more left in you? You don't know that you've peaked until you start to get diminishing returns for the same input. And what Hormozi's saying, like, stands in the face of what he always says. And I think that's bullshit.
I would agree with that. I think that's odd too, because it changes the perspective from being focused about you and what you're doing and your achievements to how other people view your achievements, which is completely contradicts what he traditionally goes on about.
It gave me the same vibes as the Monaco Grand Prix was today.
Yeah,
it fucking sucked. It was super boring.
Got it.
There's never any passing because the cars are too big. So we're all about strategy. But there was a crash at lap 1, turn 1. So everybody was allowed to run the same set of tires the entire race. They didn't have to pit. So there was literally 2 on-track overtakes, and they were like midfield passes, right? And 2 pit stops, of which they resulted in no net change. There was no on-track. Like, they just pitted and came back out in the same spot, right? And everyone was talking about that Prost quote, which is win the race at the slowest pace possible, which is the most fucking pussy shit that I can't disagree with it more. It's so fucking retarded. And it's very similar to the Hormozi stuff, which is interesting to me because he's normally very motivating and our values align a lot. And this one could not be more opposite.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. That's the first thing I'm pissed about. The second thing I'm pissed about is all this Ozempic shit that I keep seeing.
Oh, yeah.
It's fucking everywhere. I've listened to like 15 podcasts on it because I'm interested in the drug, because I think from a business standpoint, it's fucking genius, right? It's just a get fit pill, right?
Yeah.
But what's infuriating to me is that they interview all of these fat people who can't stop shoving food in their face. And they are like, oh, we feel so bad for you. They're like, I just get so hungry without the pill. And I eat a lot. And they're like, oh, my heart goes out to you, I feel. And they're like, oh, man, it's so expensive. I can't find a drug that helps me get to the health levels that I want. Stop fucking eating. It's not hard. Move more and eat less. It's not difficult. Okay. It's difficult in the sense that it's not fucking easy because you're going to be hungry, but just fucking do it anyways. Yeah. It pisses me off to no fucking end. I don't even know why I listen to the content anymore, except that I found, do you know how much it costs for 1 month of Ozempic?
For a patient who's taking
For a patient who's taking it. If you went to your doctor and said, I need Ozempic because I'm weak-willed, how much would it cost you? It costs $995 a month.
Whoa, I was going to say like 200. I thought would be a lot.
$995. How much does it cost to make that?
$1.70.
$5. Wow. $5. Wow. So from a business standpoint, and their argument is like, oh, we had a lot of research and development. We spent $11 billion on research and development, so like it's going to take time to earn that money back. I don't know how much they're producing or how much they're selling, but something tells me you're going to make that money back very quickly, right? So from a business standpoint, it's fucking fascinating. But from a sociological standpoint, I fucking hate people and we need a new plague.
I mean, for $900 a month, I wonder if you could make a pill that, claims to be the fitness pill, gets you fit, right? And it's just so much money that you can no longer afford the caloric intake that you traditionally can afford. So you start to lose weight just because you're spending so much money for these pills. And the pills are just placebo pills.
That's so funny.
But your caloric intake is less because you can't afford, an extra like rent payment.
Yeah. Do you know what is the worst about this drug? Is people say, like journalists will be like, oh, we've had it reported that the people who take the drug lose a lot of weight. They lose 40 pounds in 2 months. And as soon as they go off the drug, all the weight comes back. It's just like dieting. I'm like, it is fucking dieting. Because most people take dieting as like, I'm going to do this for a month and then I'll lose weight and then I'll be skinny. But no, dieting is a fundamental change of your diet. You need to change the food that you eat daily forever to be at that weight. And people don't fucking understand that.
It takes discipline and people don't have it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just a fucking weak will. And it sucks because a lot of the people promoting this shit are celebrities who a lot of people look up to. And they're looking up to the wrong values, which is I'm just going to take a pill because it's easier instead of I'm going to do the hard thing because it's healthier.
Right.
Even though it's harder.
Yeah. I completely agree. I mean, there was a time where I was, like an honest, 40 pounds heavier than I am now. And you were
in the 180s last year when we started losing weight.
Exactly. Yep. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to eat better and change my diet and exercise, And occasionally I'll have a bag of chips or whatever. But a majority of the day, I'm in a caloric deficit. The majority of my day. I'll eat something, I won't eat anything in the morning. I'll eat, a few things midday, and then I don't really eat at night. And that's traditionally how I run my days. And, that puts me in a slight caloric deficit, and I'm able to lose weight. And even if I can't make the gym or whatever, or something like that, I can still at least maintain, if not decrease my body weight, And now I'm around, the mid 140s, which is way lighter than I was.
It's just calories in, calories
out. It's just
out.
discipline and going through the process. You don't need a special pill to not make you feel hungry. Yeah, you're going to feel hungry. That's part of not eating. That's part of losing weight, is you're going to feel a little bit different than you normally do when you eat 5,000 fucking calories a day or whatever it is, right?
Yep.
And it's like, just eat normally.
Yep.
And exercise. It's not that hard.
The arguments against it are just so fucking weak and futile, and it fucking enrages me.
Yeah. It's just a math formula.
Yeah.
Is your caloric intake higher or lower than your caloric output?
Yep.
That's all it is.
The upside to this is it's exposing how many weak fucking people there are out there, and how easy it will be to walk right the fuck over them as people with even a little bit of will. Because here's the thing. We're not spending $900 a month on a magic pill, right? We're a natural healthy because Ozempic comes with side effects, right? And the reason it exists is for people with diabetes whose side effects from diabetes are worse than the side effects from Ozempic. So it's the lesser of two evils, but it's still an evil, right? Because it's medication. All medication comes with side effects or it doesn't work.
Right.
So these people have less money because they spend more on Ozempic, are less healthy because they have these health risks, right? Odds are they're probably not watching what they're eating. They're probably just eating less because it's still Ozempic. So they're probably, instead of eating 5 Twinkies and a hamburger a day, they're eating 3 Twinkies a day. Still not healthy, I'm willing to bet. Most people, right? And on top of all of that, even if you want to take away all of those points, there's still the Andrew Huberman, David Goggins study on the will to live in that special part of your brain where doing things you don't want to do is directly linked to how long you live.
Yep.
So even if they have more money than us, they're skinnier than us, they feel better than us, and they, don't die of a heart condition at 65, we'll still outlive them because we have a will to live.
Yeah, agreed. I actually saw this interesting thing. The guy who did the Super Size Me movie, he ate McDonald's for a month for this movie and blah, blah, blah.
I think it was longer than that, right? Or was
I believe it was a month.
Got it.
I believe. Every day.
That's
3 meals a day.
Still a lot
for a month. Yeah, he gained 40 or 50 pounds or something like that.
Yeah. Took fucking 10 years off his life.
He died at 53.
Wow.
Yep. Died at 53.
Do they know the cause?
I'm sure they do. I didn't read it. So I just saw the headline. What?
Fentanyl overdose.
Oh my God.
It's totally unrelated to McDonald's. That's horrific. Dude.
Yeah, I died at 53 this past week.
Wow. Man, and that's why I got a tropical smoothie DoorDash cheer, because I don't fuck with McDonald's. That's a joke. I even know.
I like McDonald's sometimes.
So those are the things that I had to vent about because it was just driving me fucking up the wall, and I needed to talk about it.
Yeah, well, I have one related to it as well, and
it's about fat people.
Sort of. Well, maybe it can be a variety of things. No.
Okay.
There's a quote from Alex Rosie. It says, "The things that trigger you are the things that control you." And the question I have is, how do you feel about modern day trigger culture? And is our generation weak? which we discussed a little bit just now.
Yeah.
But I think that, it's so sad to me when I see the videos of like these 14, 15, 16-year-old kids who are like, I feel this way and, I'm too beautiful for anyone and I'm too rich for anyone. Like there's these people who are so out of their world. Yeah, I get this content of like this person who's, this, middle-aged teenager who's living at home, going to school, and they're like, I can't get girls because I'm too beautiful and I'm too rich and I'm too awesome and I have too many great friends. Like they're literally saying this stuff. And I'm like, dude, like you are 300 pounds. You do not exercise. You clearly are delusional, at least in regards to your physical health, because it's evident from this video that you are not healthy.
Right.
Right. And it's like, on top of that, then there are certain things that that same group of people, if you come up to them and you like, misgender them or something like that, right? It's like, even if it's not intentional, even if you don't know, why is that such a trigger for you that you have to break out and yell at other people about it or get upset or like, want to call the cops or like want to pass laws to make it illegal and a felony? Like there's this huge push to, cater to other people around. Whereas like reality is just reality and sometimes life is hard. And why can't you learn to deal with that aspect of it? Why does everyone have to cater to you? You know what I mean? Why does everyone have to pamper you and like, worry about how you're going to feel if X, Y, and Z is said, or if you interact with so-and-so at, Macy's and they say something mean to you? Like, why is that such a priority above just being able to deal with the difficulties of life?
I think the tough part about the Macy's example is a lot of times people don't even mean to say mean stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're just talking and they make an assumption that's wrong, right?
Right.
And instead of being cool about it, and there are people who are cool about it, right? They'll like politely correct them and they'll be like, oh, I'm they, them.
Mm-hmm.
And most times people are like, oh, sorry, I didn't know. It's no big deal, right? But there's a small but growing percentage of the population of people who will get upset because they've had some type of traumatic experience in their past and someone, reminds them of it and then they get upset, right? And that's fine. Like, I don't care if you've had a hard life and can't cope with it and you want to feel your feelings. Cool. That's up to you. I'm not going to live your life for you. Right?
Yeah.
But it's not my responsibility to watch what I say around you. You're a fucking adult or a kid. I don't care who you are. Right.
Yeah.
It's a free fucking country and I can say what I'd like. Right. And as I think that so long as you're not saying in a harmful way to somebody, it shouldn't matter. Yeah. If I'm having a conversation with someone and I'm attacking them out of nowhere and I'm calling someone like fat or weird or poor or whatever, if I'm being a dick, right, then that leads to an argument. But if you're just speaking in conversation and you say something that is insensitive or a topic that you don't jibe with, right, it's up to you to leave the situation, right? So I'll ask you this example. How many KKK rallies have you been to?
None.
Why is that? Just kidding. No, not surprisingly. Why have you not been to a single KKK rally?
Because it's not a movement that I support.
Exactly.
It's not something I want to be part of at all.
Yep. If you were at Publix in the checkout aisle and a KKK rally started in the next aisle over and they said, hey, Sander, come over here, what would you do?
No, thanks. I'm taking my shit and leaving.
Why don't people act like that whenever they hear something they don't like? You use the extreme of a KKK rally because nobody should be a part of it. It's a horrific group, right? And although I don't see mentioning fucking, I don't know, politics or gender or whatever, topic you want to pick as something that extreme, those people perceive it as that extreme. And that's okay. But it's up to you to just leave the situation. Right. Just leave it. Because like Alex Hormozy says this, it's, pick the reality that serves you. Right. Like you can think to yourself, oh, he's harassing me, he's being mean, he needs to learn. Right. But most people don't understand this, and it took me a while to understand. I didn't understand this until like a year ago, is most people, you're not going to change their mind, especially if you're in a dispute or an argument or a debate. So like the change my mind things that they do on college campuses, right? It's clickbait because most people, sometimes they get somebody, right? Most people just want to argue. They don't want to actually have their minds changed or enlightened or see a different perspective. They just want to argue.
You see that a lot with, there are certain people, I can't remember their names, mostly politicians who will go to college campuses and like have debates regarding certain topics. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those debates just end up in college kids yelling.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a environment to debate things in a professional manner. And then you get up there and get the mic and you just start yelling at the other person. It's like, why?
Dude, why?
What compelled you to take the time out of your day to go yell at someone else about a topic you're ill-versed on and then get upset when you realize that you're ill-versed on and then just call them names? Like, what compelled you to waste that part of your day like that?
What's productive about calling them names?
Right. Exactly.
I remember the first real fight or argument I got into with my girlfriend in college was about politics because we had differing perspectives. And we ended the conversation by me saying, okay, like, I guess we just have a fundamental difference. And so she was really quiet. And I was like, are you good? Like, we're about to go into a party. Are you okay? And she was like, I don't know if we can date. And I was like, whoa, what? What are you talking about? You're not going to date me because of like a fucking political, and I'm not a political guy. I don't talk about it a lot, right? I guess at the time I talked about it a little more, but it wasn't like a major part of my personality. This was the first discussion we had on it. And I was like that seems extreme. And she was like, maybe, I don't know, this is a judge of your character. And I was like, we've been together for 4 years. Like, my character. I'm not a fucking villain, right? So why are you labeling me as such?
Yeah.
And then she was like, okay, maybe not. And then I was like, okay, now it's my turn because I don't know if I want to be with somebody who's willing to put our relationship at stake for a fucking label. Like,
yeah,
that seems extreme, right? And ultimately we ended up not working out, of course. But I think that very few people are okay with ending a conversation as, I guess we just see things differently.
Yeah. And I actually find that there's a higher percentage of people down south who are okay with that. When I was up north, it was like, either you have my view or you got to go. Like, that's it. And it was very black and white. Everyone had sort of the same political beliefs. So especially in the town I grew up in, and any sort of differentiation from that mindset or thought was seen as like they were a villain, you know? And I find that super toxic, and it doesn't promote growth. It doesn't help people understand each other or learn from one another or, interact in the society.
Yeah.
And it's sad for me to see because I think that we could all get along and have good policies that work for a lot of different people. If a select group of people toughened up and then, also generally speaking, people would listen to one each other more, and it just doesn't seem like it's going in that direction.
Yeah.
And anyway, it seems like it strays farther and farther from that.
Yeah. I've never really understood why it's an issue for two strangers who aren't working together on anything can't just be okay with not agreeing.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
100%.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. I was going to try and relay that into my first quote and question. I've started to do the quotes and questions now. But this quote, I think it's a Chris Williamson quote. It's trade what you want now for what you want the most.
I think that is Chris Williamson.
Yeah. And my question for you is, what have you traded in the short term for something that you wanted more in the long term? I can think of 15, but I was wondering if you had like an interesting one.
Yeah.
My 9 to 5. I'll trade that for a business. Right? Your Hot Wheels for business.
The Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
One that comes to mind for me, I think probably the biggest one I had to trade was racing, because I really traded out of racing in order to pursue an education, but B, business. Because, when I got to college, my perspective was, I'll race while I do college. And I realized that I couldn't do those two things at the same time. So I was like, okay, I'll just do college. And then once I get out of college, I'll figure out how to race again.
Did you have a choice? I thought the funding dried up. And so you went to college.
In part, yes. But at the same time, too, I think I could have figured it out if I really put my nose to the grindstone. Like, I think it probably could have happened. I mean, if you really put your mind to something, it will work, right? But
if you're reliant on other people, I mean, dude, there's so many driving talents that just haven't gotten the funding because they didn't know the right people.
Yeah. Right. I don't know. I believe that I could have if I really tried.
I don't know your situation. That's not to say I don't believe in you. But
right.
What I'm saying is, like, generational talents have gone unnoticed before.
But one thing, too, is that I could have
sucked dick for money.
No. I could have put aside college to try and really, really pursue that. I could have. But I was like, no, I'm going to go through this college education experience and learn the best I can and then try to use my skills in order to generate money so that I can race. And then, I had to split an opportunity where after college, I could have been like, I'm just going to try and hop from 9 to 5 and get something that's like $100K a year and then race my carts on the side. But I was like, no, I'm going to give up that short-term success thing. I'm not going to search for that $100K 9 to 5 and just hop and then try to make ends meet. Right. I'm going to start a business with my business partner and we're going to make more money than that. And then I'll be able to race whatever I want in the future.
Gentlemen,
right?
Own a racing team. whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And then, I mean, there's been a bunch of small things too. Like I've wanted to, perform various modifications on the Miata for a very long time and have continued to withhold on those things so that I can save up for things that are more important to me in regards to business. The Hot Wheels selling, right? A collection. I'm going to get rid of those so that I have a little bit more capital going into our business ventures in the future. And then I think another one too is that I used to hang out with people on weekends, like very regularly. Like I'd go hang out with a few friends and we'd just like play video games. And I've completely given that up, almost exclusively, besides like the small times I spend with my girlfriend doing something, for a day or whatever. But I gave that up, in order to pursue the things that were more important to me. And now, as I'm pursuing those things that are more important to me, I have continuous validation from those things that was the right path because I continue to make progress in business with you or, whatever other ventures that we have. So it's like the initial break apart from what I used to do to what I knew I should be doing was challenging. But as you continue to do what you know you should do, that process becomes easier because you have validation along the way. Right. So, in that sense, that's another example of something that I've had to kind of give up for something that I want more. Or another one is, I was going to do trading, like foreign exchange market trading on my computer. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this aside because I could try to squeeze together capital to do it and learn it. But I think that growing a business structure with you and growing a business would be A, more lucrative, and B, would teach me skills that I could apply elsewhere to really generate more capital than I ever could by just saving up to try and trade the foreign exchange market.
That's a really interesting point that I didn't put together until like fucking 3 months ago. Because I really wanted to go into real estate and like build a real estate empire, right? And you wanted to do the day trading. And what I've realized since learning about like a brick and mortar business is real estate and foreign exchange trading and just any kind of stock investment are really great ways to save money because oftentimes you can do it against the rate of inflation. You can do it, right? But it's not a really great way to make money.
Yeah.
Because it constantly takes your input and your time, and it's not very passive. And businesses will just work for you. So what's the next thing that you have?
100% agree. Well, I wanted to hear something that you've given up.
I've given up, I think, more than I really thought that I would. In college, I always assumed it would be pretty straightforward. Get a job, get married, have kids, whatever. Just like the regular American white picket fence life. And I think that I went through a really bad breakup in the beginning of my senior year. And I think that's what changed me into the work hard, play not at all, and just work harder type of person that I am. Because before, like when we met each other in like was it Fluids Lab or something, right?
Junior year.
I did not have the work ethic that I had for SAE. Like if I didn't go through that breakup and I was the SAE vice president, I would have dicked around a lot. And I don't think that we would have gotten enough done. But Hermosi and Chris Williamson talk a lot about how people often look for the thing that successful people have that the rest of people don't. But it's not something that they have. It's something that they don't have, which is an off button. And I think that breakup took away my off button.
Yeah.
And that really shifted my entire worldview of what was important to me from I'm going to live my life to make other people happy because that will make me happy to I need to live my life for me and what's important to me. And I also recognized that during that relationship, through changes from high school to college and rowing to not rowing to rowing to whatever, I always had my relationship as a crutch because I could always work to grow my relationship, right? And when I lost that, I felt lost and I felt very depressed because I wasn't progressing.
Yeah.
And something that I've realized since then, and especially as coming into business, is that in order to feel happy, I need to be progressing towards a greater goal, right? So like how Mosey says, like I'm aiming for 1 billion, but once it's 1, it'll be 10 and then 100. Like I'm always going to be progressing because I don't care about where I get to really. It's the act of getting there. And I think recently I've realized that I do really enjoy the process. As hard as the work is and as late as the nights get, I really enjoy the process. And I'm excited for getting to the goals that we get to, but I also recognize that it's never ending. And that's such a great thing because so many people will say to you, well, what are you going to do when you reach your goal? Like, oh, will you finally rest on your laurels? And I'm like, no, because that's not my goal. Like, my goal is to always have something to push for, to always progress towards.
Yeah.
Right. And the beautiful thing about having financial freedom is that if you need to rest, you can. Right. Like, I'm sure at 60 or 65, if I have the money that I hope I have, and I have the support structure that I hope I have, I'm probably not going to be able to push as hard as I can when I'm in my 20s, because we're fucking young and we're durable right now. But as we age, man, like, it's important to stay active and stay fit, but I don't think that you can push it every day, like 18 hours every day. I don't think that's reasonable, and I don't think I want that. And I want to be able to sit back, but my dad's getting close to his 60s, and he's got to go to work every day.
Yeah. I was talking with my dad the other day, and he called me up just to see how things were going, and he regularly, well, not regularly, but maybe every other phone call, bugs me about the stuff I still have back home, because I have like things like a drum kit and, a keyboard and books and whatever else. Mm-hmm. He's like, hey man, like, have you thought about what you're going to do with all this stuff? One aspect in my head, I'm like, dude, like, you still have things at your parents' house. Like,
let's be real.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
I'm like, give me a little bit of slack. And he's gotten rid of most of it by now, but like, even when he was in his like late 20s and early 30s, like, he still had stuff there, And in my head, I'm like, give me a break. Like, I just got out of college. Like, I don't have a ton of space here. I could squeeze in a bunch more shit, if I really wanted to, but like, why am I going to put myself through that?
Do you want to drive to Massachusetts and get
right? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, well, maybe you can come up here and pick it up. And I'm like, dude, like, I don't have a week to waste driving up there and then loading all this stuff up, and playing catch up and then coming back down here with all that stuff. I just don't have that time, and I don't have the money to rent something that would allow me to do that and then, pay for all that gas plus the hotel fees. Like, it's going to be an over $1,000 trip. That just doesn't make sense for me right now at all. And, I was telling him, like, dude, like, I just don't have time to deal with that right now. And he's like, oh, well, like, time only gets shorter when you get older, you get more and more responsibilities. And I'm like, I have a hunch that you weren't trying to start a physical, maybe I'll rephrase that
no, that's fine.
Yeah. You aren't trying to start a physical expansion of a business.
Yeah.
Right. You aren't, pushing the market bounds past what they've been pushed before. Right. You aren't trying to establish an LLC and get investor help and work with a business partner and develop all these things together and figure out branding and social media and, staying up late after your 9 to 5 to accomplish all those things on top of, the side automotive work I take on to try and make extra capital so I can afford, future business things.
Afford to work later hours.
Right. Exactly. On top of having to deal with just general life bullshit and, this whole insurance situation that I've been in with the 330 accident has thrown such a wrench in my day-to-day too. Cause it's like, now not only do I have all the traditional stuff, it's like I have this little side quest project over here where I have to deal with the legal paperwork and lawyers and insurance and car appraisals and medical, issues, right? It's like, oh my God, like, I came to the conclusion in my head that I don't know if he really comprehends the amount of work that it takes to be where I'm at right now, because I don't know if he's gone through as rigorous as a process as we've gone through. And I mean that in a polite way, right? Because whatever your limit that you see is your limit, that's like the limit that you apply to all, right? Like if the worst thing that happened to you in your entire life was someone stubbed your toe in 3rd grade, right? Then that's your limit, right? And you can't see past that.
Yeah.
And I think he has a limit somewhere here, and my limit is just higher than that. And so he applies the limit he knows to my situation, but he doesn't realize that I'm already steps ahead in terms of productivity and task management than he was, right? And so it's really hard for me to convey effectively that I really don't have time to go deal with this stuff right now. I told him that I could potentially try to deal with it in the fall or winter, if I go up there for, some smaller period of time or whatever. Or I told him maybe if my next car ends up being a wagon, I can, drive up there and use that because I can't pay for a rental for that long. And, or if I'm borrowing someone else's car, I'm still going to have to, pay for that borrowing the car and stuff like that. And, it really sent home how I don't think the general populace or your average Joe can really understand the amount of effort we have to put in to make this stuff happen. Right? We started our business in October. And if anyone were to see, physically saw, maybe September, late August, we really started. But, let's say October was when like the boots hit the ground, let's say, right? And I don't think that in hindsight, we would have seen being where we are at today in October as quickly as we've gotten there. But it's just because we put in work every single day to make that goal a little bit closer and a little bit closer.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, generally speaking, people would look at our timeline from October until May and be like, oh yeah, that seems like a reasonable timeline. Right. And so that was my spiel.
I feel like most people have never worked as hard as we have worked on one of our easier days. Like, think about Formula SAE in those days.
Yeah.
Between rowing, test prep for actual exams, homework, and running the SAE club and team. I was in SGA and in a lawsuit with Florida Tech at the time. I mean, those were genuinely 18, 20-hour days with little sleep. And it wasn't like, oh, this week is tough and then next week is easy. It was sustained for, I think our longest stretch was 8 months, which capped off with the end of senior design.
Yeah.
And
I went right back to work on something else.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, because I think to myself, like, how long can I push for if I have to? Because I was going to say that 8 months was capped off with the day that we stayed up 3 nights in a row working and almost fell asleep at 3 p.m. and drove home. But that wasn't it, because if I recall correctly, we slept that night and then the next morning we got back to it because senior design was the next week.
Yeah.
And it didn't end till senior design. And then we took, I think, 5 days off before starting on drop shipping.
Not even. Probably.
So like it was 8 months of, no kidding, nonstop.
I think we started drop shipping the first week out of college because I remember being late to Autobahn regularly that first week. And that was the week right after we graduated. I started working on Autobahn immediately. And I was late in the mornings a couple of days that week because we were up doing the drop shipping stuff. I think we started on it 3-4 days after we...
But senior design was a couple days before graduation.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it was 5 break days of not, like, genuinely not doing it, of rest and recovery before getting into the next thing.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
When I think to myself, like, dude, the people, my parents and regular people and, like, the fucking people in my office have no idea how hard we fucking work. Because even today, it's like a regular day for me looks like waking up early and going into work, working for 9 hours, leaving, going to the gym, going home, showering, packing a dinner, and then getting back in the car, and it's already dark. Like, the sun has already gone down. I'm fucking exhausted because I did all of this and then some the next day. I'm on 4 fucking hours of sleep. And I get back in the car, and, like, I almost fucking cry most days because I don't want to go back to work because I'm so fucking tired.
Yeah.
But I know that if I go home and I sleep, then I'm just like everybody else and I'm not doing anything special, and I'll always be there.
Yeah.
And so I fucking turn the car on and I go to the bar and I start working. And once I'm in the flow, like, it eases up and everything's okay. And I get into it and I get excited and I finish my workload for the day and I go home and I fall asleep because I'm exhausted. But, like, the hardest point of my day is getting back in the car after hitting the gym and making dinner, like cooking dinner and coming downstairs. Like, that's the hardest point of my day every day. And it's been the hardest point of my day every single day for almost a year now. Yeah. And, like, I think that most people don't understand the fucking suck because they'll only have one of those days a month.
Yeah.
And they don't know what it's like to do it every single day without reprieve for a year.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what separates us from them.
Yeah. There a couple weeks back, there was, like, probably a 3-week stretch where, like, every single day it was a new issue. Like, car accident, ran both my laptops over with my car, insurance issues, lawyer issues, random bullshit happening throughout the day. Like, there's probably stuff I'm even forgetting. I remember there was quite a few things.
Suspension from work.
Yeah, suspension from work. It was like every day there was a new issue. And I was just like, fuck, like, this sucks. Like, this is tough. And, I didn't think about it from the perspective of, a lot of people are like, oh, you should take a break. You should take a break. And I was like, I don't want to take a fucking break. Like, I want to get out of this situation. I'm not going to get out of it by sitting down and relaxing and trying to make myself feel better. I'm going to make myself feel better by changing something about my environment or doing something to change my future environment. That's how I'm going to solve the issue. Not by taking a break, not by, going on vacation or whatever, stuff like that, right? And, there's definitely been a couple days where I just felt slower paced than I normally do just because of the weight, but I still got my laptop out and tried to do my part, or even if I wasn't working on our business stuff, like I was trying to apply to other jobs or screwing with the podcast stuff or working on, the car shoot that, we're going to go do, on Tropical Trail and stuff. And it's like, I always try to keep the gears going. And the other day I was sitting at Pauhana and I was super stressed out because I was looking at all the job listings and I was like, oh my God, like there's so many that I could fit here and here. And but like, I don't know. And I was so stressed out because I had like 20 job listings that I was saved. And I was like, fucking like, how am I going to get through all these? Like, it takes me so long to develop the cover letter and resume to how I want it to fit the job. And like at a certain point, I feel like it becomes a Hormozy moment where it's like, I could have just written the first draft and sent it and it would have been good enough. But I know that it's not good enough. So I got to sit there and think about, what word am I going to use in this sentence of my objectives for this particular job in order to cater best towards the job application. And it's like, I know that I could just send it and be done with it. But it's like, there's a part of me that's like, no, like it's got to be right. And I got to figure out what that word is. And so it takes me so long to go through these job applications, not because I'm stupid, but just because I want it to be right. I want to know that I put in my effort for it, even if it takes me a while. And I was sitting there, I was like, oh my God, like how am I going to get through all these listings? And so that's when I moved over to Kraken instead of Pauhana because I like couldn't be in that space anymore. Change of environment. And I was driving over to Kraken and I thought a couple things. I was like, you know what? If you just do one a day or one every other day, you'll be done in a month. A month's not that long. Like, and those are all the job listings that you saw that were like, oh man, these are pretty good, right? Even if I narrow it down from there, I could be done faster than that, right? These are just generally speaking, I think I'll fit the bill pretty well and they're close by, right? And then the other aspect of me was like, who else right now is stressing because they feel like they can't get their work done fast enough, right? Like there's so many people out there who are so satisfied not doing anything, or so satisfied sitting at home and watching Netflix and not doing anything with their life and not pursuing anything, right? And it's like, I'm in such a better position to be, actively thinking about how I can make the best use of my time. Like, thank God I'm not someone who just enjoys sitting around at home and watching Netflix, right? Because I'd be so much worse off in my life, right? I should be thankful for the stress I feel now because it motivates me to build something greater in the future. Right? And so that's the conclusion I came to. And that kind of helped me relax a little bit. And, I chugged through, a little bit more of that stuff and looked at the jobs again and then, went over and did more of the podcast stuff. And, there were obviously hurdles there because, always hurdles in something, but eventually figured it out. And then we worked on, our business stuff and whatever. But, there are times where I feel very stressed and it's hard to get through.
I started counting in hundreds of hours like Hormozy does because it really fucking scopes out what you're doing. So you'll think to yourself like, dude, I'm sick of doing these job applications. I've done so many of them. I don't want to do any more of them. And you think to yourself like, fuck, man, it takes me like an hour and a half to do like one application and I have fucking 20 of them, right? When you think about it, that's like fucking 30 hours. Right. And that's not a whole lot. Like we work an extra like fucking 8-10 hours a day anyways. So that's like 3 days, right? And if you want to cut it with other work, you can get it done in a week, right? And once we're able to quit our job, like our 9 to 5 then becomes, instead of 40 hours a week, I'm guessing between the two of us, it should be like maybe 15 between the two of us. So like you just get more and more of your time back. But the other day I sat down to work on our branding and I was like, okay, I'm going to figure out a font that we can work with. So I'm going to look at fonts. And I did it for like, I don't know, 10 minutes and I got 3 of them. And I was like, okay, cool. This is like, we've got some options here and I like these. And then I was like, this is so important for it's the branding of our business. Like this is super important. I've got to put in more effort than this because what if there's a better font out there, right? Yeah. And so I told myself, I was like, I'm going to do this until I get at least 15 fucking awesome options. And I went until I had 30. And then I whittled it down to the top 15. And then I went back through and found more and cut that down to the top 15. So I had like the best of the best that I could find. And I looked at fonts for 4 hours. because I told myself, if you can take a menial task, like looking at fonts, and do it for 4 hours, the output is going to be infinitely better than what you do in 15 minutes, right? And what's hilarious is that the first font I picked is the one we went with.
It is. It was really good, though.
So 3 hours and 58 minutes were spent just making sure that we had the best one. But that's insurance I would rather have because I love that font. And I think it's great. And I'm super happy with it.
This reminds me of Christmas tree picking with my dad for a funny reason. Because continuously, when I used to live back home and up in the Northeast, we'd go and cut a Christmas tree at a Christmas tree farm. And 9 times out of 10, the first tree we found to cut was the tree we ended up getting. But we still spent 2.5, 3 hours walking through the entire farm, every row, and making sure that was the tree. Like, that was the tree.
Sometimes it's fine to just be like, this. Okay, I think it's important to know when something is good enough, right?
Yeah.
But when you're picking something important, like a logo,
right,
this tree, you want to be absolutely
very important.
You want to be certain, right? But like, you can also think of it this way: if you guys rocked up to the Christmas tree farm and grabbed the first decent looking one that you saw, when you're picking your logo, you're going to pick the first one that you see, right? So by looking through Christmas trees for 3 hours and then cutting down the one that you found first, that taught you to then go through and look through all the logos to make sure that you find the perfect one later on. I think what is key between perfectionism and actual efficiency, someone has this quote, maybe it's Warren Buffett, perfectionism is procrastination in disguise, right? Which is, I'm just going to keep doing it until it's perfect, and because I'm scared of moving on and I don't want to do the next thing, right? It's one of the key attributes in business. Holy fuck, this is our first actual business quote of the day. Here we go. It's knowing when it's good enough, right? Knowing which tasks to fucking like obsess over and get perfect, and knowing what tasks you can just get to where they need to be and they'll serve their purpose and be okay. And I feel like branding is important enough that it is a good use of our time. Location, branding, those are fucking super important, right? Product, super important. And there are some other like back-end data type of things that are less important that just have to be good enough to do their purpose, right? Like, I think our location selector matrix is super well built, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think our cost analysis sheet is great, but I think that we've had the time to spend on it that we've made it probably more advanced than it needed to be. I think our cost analysis sheet could probably be 50% simpler and still do its job. We just happen to have the time to put into it. Right?
Yeah.
But I think that's one of the things that I think if I were to do it again in the future, we could probably simplify it and make it work just the same.
Yeah.
If we were to do it again. But it's knowing when to pick your battles.
I would agree
with what needs to be good and what needs to be perfect.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
What's your next thing?
With my next thing,
we're on to fucking quote number 2.
Yeah, seriously. This one's also an Alex Hormozy quote, and it says, "Belief makes what was once impossible possible. Repetition makes what once was hard easy, and evidence makes what was once probable inevitable." What do you believe and repeat in order to create evidence of your success? So essentially, what do you really believe in? What drives you? And then what are the day-to-day things that you repeat in order to create your future success?
I think that, like I said earlier, getting in the car after my regular day is complete and then going and leading this fucking double life of going back to, I'll say it again. Most people don't understand how difficult it is to work a full day and then go work a full day.
Yeah.
Right. Even people who have double shifts, like double jobs, right? Every day. And it's not even like having 2 jobs because you still have the pressure of like a manager to show up for. We don't have anyone to show up for. There's no external pressure. It's all internal pressure. And I think that makes it more difficult because if no one's watching you, it's so easy to slack off. Right. Yeah. And I think that the way that I give myself evidence is by just fucking turning the car on and driving to the bar and sitting down with the laptop. Because I know that once the laptop's open, I'll start working, right? But actually opening the laptop can be really difficult some days. And I know that so long as I do that, I'm making progress and I will succeed. But what's interesting is that the first part of that quote was talking about, what was the first one?
Belief makes what was once impossible possible.
That belief hit me when when you started talking about back in college when we graduated, you were like, people are trained to trade their time for dollars, right? Like a set amount of money. But how are there millionaires in the world if that's the case? Yeah. And I started thinking to myself, like, my goal was I'll get a 6-figure job, and after working for 2 years, I can buy a house. And then after another 2 years, I can probably buy like a used McLaren what is it? The 12C?
MP4-12C.
MP4 12C, a used one. Their transmissions blow up all the time, but I'm handy, so maybe I can fix it if it blows up. I can probably go in for $90K, and then that'll be my supercar, and then that'll be my car, right? That was my whole goal, my whole plan. And the MP4 12C is like the lowest level McLaren. Why wasn't I shooting higher? Because I'm never going to have $20 million for a McLaren F1, right? And I had never really asked the question, why not? Yeah. And as soon as I asked the question, why not? I thought to myself, well, you don't have to be born into money to be a millionaire or a billionaire. Most aren't. What am I missing? And how bad do I want it? Because it wasn't until I opened the door into the possibility of actually having it that I fucking bolted through the door. But the door is closed and it's like it didn't even exist. I was like, I'm never going to have an F1. That's a lot of money. And I'm not making that much money. I'm just an engineer. But once I was like, all you have to do is work to make that money. You just have to work in a different way.
I cannot imagine being in a position right now where I went to my 9 to 5 and was okay with the idea of staying in that style of job for the rest of my life.
I genuinely believe that the amount of depression in the United States is solely due to that.
Yeah.
Because people know that there is more out there, but don't know how to get it. And I think that even the people who know how to get it or have an inkling of an idea aren't willing to put the work in because they are so tired after they go to work and hit the gym and cook dinner. They don't want to work anymore. They're tired. And so it's easier to say, I'm happy with what is attainable than I am not satisfied and must work harder.
Completely agree. What is your next quote?
Well, here's a good one. When you become lazy, that's disrespectful to those who believe in you, which I use very frequently.
Well, you're kind of using that at your 9 to 5, right? Because you weren't showing up on time, but then you're doing it for the sake of your team and others.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people on my team don't believe in me. I feel like a lot of people on my team are really confused as to why other teams want to work with me. But I frequently think to myself after I make dinner and I'm like, do I put my clothes, like my work clothes on and go out to work, or do I take a shower and go to bed? Right? What I think to myself is, fuck. Like my parents, I don't think my parents genuinely think that I can do this. And I fucking know that my exes didn't believe that I can do it. And
really,
those at one point were the most important people to me, and they don't think I can do it, right?
Yeah.
But you think I can do it.
I know you can do it.
And Grace thinks I can do it.
Yeah.
And
it's not that I think, I know that you can do it.
I know.
I'm so confident that you can do it that I'd be willing to fucking take the bet that if I hit a tree at 120 miles an hour and fucking died tomorrow, you'd still fucking do it. I know you fucking will.
I think there's a better analogy, which is to say, I think you can do it so much that I'm doing it with you, which is true.
Yeah.
But you and Grace are now the most important people in my life, and you both think I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to have this thought in high school when I was a fuck up going into college, which is my parents brought themselves up from dirt. They grew up in trailer parks, constantly moving with no fucking money and living in slums and poverty, and put themselves through college and got good grades and took on student loan debt and got good jobs to have kids, to have a house, to give me a better life.
Yeah.
And who the fuck am I to throw that away with a degree that is not going to make the same amount of money, and then to help them when they're in retirement, or help my own kids should I choose to father their grandchildren? Who the fuck am I to deny that? Because they've given their entire lives to do this. No, I won't do that. I won't be a fucking failure. I will proceed to lineage. So I'm going to get a job in engineering. And that's exactly what I did. Who the fuck am I to go to sleep when I'm tired, when I have the will to work, when you and Grace believe in me to do it?
Yeah.
That's a huge driver for me and has been lately. And I didn't even realize that this quote applied to it. Yeah.
I'm very glad.
Yeah, but it's so fucking disrespectful to the people who believe in you and put their faith in you and would fucking stick their neck out for you. Like, I tried to get a mutual friend of ours, I'll name drop him. I tried to get Ryan a job the other week. Like, I put stuck my neck out for him, and I was like, there's this opportunity, I put in a good word for you, right? And then he fucked me by never even meeting the dude. He just asked people who had never worked with him about him, and they were like, he's not a good guy, I don't like him. And so he was like, I'm not even going to take the fucking meeting. It wasn't an interview. There was no stakes. I just wanted to introduce them, and he wouldn't even fucking do that because he's too afraid to do it. And guess what? That's the last time I stick my neck out for him.
Yeah.
Right? And he fucking disrespected me by not putting the work in, and I believed in him.
Yeah.
And that's fucking rude. And so for me, you are out at the bar working, Grace is out at the bar working, and I am at home. I just finished dinner and I'm going to go to sleep. Fuck me. Absolutely not. No. I'm going to go to work.
I like that a lot. That's very cool. Well, I'm glad that I can be a motivation in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
I think it works both ways too, because there are times where I really don't feel like going through the motions. You know, I just want to like take an hour to sim race or, you know, pet my cats or whatever. And I'm like, fucking Mason's at the bar working right now. Like, I'm going to pack my shit up and go over there. I'm going to make it happen. Yeah. You know? So I think
I know you feel it, because even when I'm not working, like when I'm running errands or whatever, like you still write a report for the work that you did and send it to me. You're like, all right, here's the breakdown. I did this and this and that, and I need your input on this. I need your comments here, and then this document's ready to submit. I'm going to go do my errands now.
Yeah.
Just send me the reports so that I know that you were working while I wasn't around working, and there's like the mutual accountability there. And I think that's funny. But that's another reason that we work well together, is because we're motivated by each other to progress. And I feel like there's a lot of people that don't feel that way and don't leverage that.
Yeah. I think that was part of the problem with, you know, some of the old friend groups that I used to hang out with, was they were all content with having their 9-to-5 and having a little project car and then just like enjoying video games and chilling. And anything outside of that box was seen as like completely foreign and as an attack on their style of life.
Yeah.
Right. And so I didn't feel welcome to bring in a different perspective, because when I brought in a different perspective, it was seen as an attack, not as a differing view.
And I want to preface it by saying that lifestyle is totally fine.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being happy with whatever makes you happy. But the reason that this podcast exists is because I don't go to therapy and I have to talk to someone. And I want to record it so that in the future I can look back on it and see how fucking psychotic and broken I am. And the reason that I'm doing all of this shit instead of just enjoying my 9-to-5 and playing video games is because I have these fucking thoughts. And I'm hoping that there are some other sadistic, hard motherfuckers out there who can relate to some of the fucking ramblings that we do every week and get motivated by it too, and take some of those attributes into your own life.
100%. 100% agree.
Let's end it there.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Thank you for
watching. Very good podcast. Yeah, thank you everyone. Be well and enjoy.